What if one of the greatest empires in human history was deliberately erased from memory? An empire so powerful it rivaled Egypt, Babylon, and Assyria. Yet for centuries, no one even knew it existed. For nearly 3,000 years, the Hittites were nothing more than a ghost in the pages of the Bible, dismissed by scholars as a myth, a mere invention of ancient scribes. And then, suddenly, in the 19th century, the earth itself revealed their story. Buried beneath the soil of Anatolia lay an empire of warriors, kings, and laws that reshaped civilization. But here's the question no historian dares to ask. Why were they forgotten? Who buried their memory? And what secrets did they take with them into the shadows of time? Tonight, we uncover the rise, the mysteries, and the shocking disappearance of the Hittites, the empire they don't want you to remember. For centuries, the Hittites existed only in fragments of ancient scripture. The Bible mentioned them as a powerful people, yet no physical evidence seemed to exist. Early historians scoffed at the idea, dismissing them as a legend, perhaps a small tribe at best, not a mighty empire. But that skepticism raised a haunting question. Why would so many records, myths, and texts reference them if they had never been real? Could the world truly have conspired to erase an entire civilization from history? When archaeologists finally began piecing together their story, the truth was far stranger than fiction. This was no tribe. The Hittites ruled a vast empire stretching across Anatolia and into the Levant. Their cities were fortified, their laws organized, their armies unmatched. They were contemporaries of Egypt and Babylon, rivals on equal footing. Yet, unlike those civilizations, the Hittites disappeared so completely that for over 2,000 years, no one even spoke their name. How could such a massive force in history leave behind nothing but silence? Some believe the answer lies in deliberate erasure. After their collapse, rivals may have taken great care to wipe out records, to destroy archives, and to ensure their innovations did not survive. After all, if the Hittites were the first true masters of ironworking, their knowledge would have shifted the balance of power forever. Was history's silence truly an accident? Or was it engineered to protect the fragile empires that rose after them?
The origins of the Hittites remain shrouded in mystery. Sometime around 1700 BCE, in the rugged landscapes of Anatolia, what we now call Turkey, tribes began uniting under a single banner. From scattered hill fortresses, they built cities, then kingdoms, and eventually an empire. Unlike many civilizations who relied solely on brute force, the Hittites mastered the delicate balance between war and diplomacy. They forged alliances, established treaties, and built a legal system far ahead of its time. But what truly set them apart was their technology. While others still relied on bronze, the Hittites learned to smelt and forge iron. This was no small advantage. Iron weapons were stronger, sharper, and more durable. Their chariots, sleek and efficient, dominated the battlefield. Armies that once felt invincible suddenly crumbled under the might of Hittite warfare. And with each victory, the Hittites expanded, carving an empire that spanned from the Black Sea to the edges of Mesopotamia. Yet with such power came fear. To their neighbors, the Hittites were not just rivals, they were a threat to the world order. Their technological advantage was something no one else could match, and that made them dangerous. Could it be that their very brilliance, their mastery of iron and strategy, sealed their fate? Were they destined not just to rise, but to be buried, because the world was not ready for what they had discovered? At the height of their power, the Hittites faced their most legendary confrontation, the Battle of Kadesh. Around 1274 BCE, Pharaoh Ramses II of Egypt led his forces into Syria, seeking to claim the city of Kadesh. What he didn't expect was to meet the full might of the Hittite army, led by King Muwatalli II. What followed was one of the largest chariot battles in history. Tens of thousands of soldiers, hundreds of chariots, dust and blood clouding the battlefield. The clash was brutal. Ramses, who would later glorify the battle in Egyptian temples, barely escaped destruction. The Hittites, too, suffered massive losses, but the outcome was staggering. Neither side truly won. Yet, in this stalemate, something remarkable happened. Instead of endless war, the two empires signed the world's first recorded peace treaty, a document etched in stone that survives even today. It was a treaty that set the stage for diplomacy as we know it. But here's the eerie part. While Egypt's version of history glorifies Ramses as the victor, the Hittites' role in this turning point of civilization faded into silence. Was it propaganda that buried their legacy, ensuring Egypt's glory would be remembered while the Hittites slipped into obscurity? Or was this the first step in a much larger erasure? One carefully orchestrated so that their empire would be remembered only as a shadow in someone else's story.
For thousands of years, the Hittites remained invisible until the 19th century. In the ruins of Hattusa, their ancient capital, archaeologists stumbled upon something extraordinary. Thousands of cuneiform tablets preserved in clay, detailing their laws, treaties, and daily life. Suddenly, the mythical Hittites were no longer myth, they were real. And their records revealed a civilization as advanced, as complex, and as powerful as Egypt or Mesopotamia. These tablets shocked the academic world. They spoke of kings, wars, and gods, of diplomacy and rebellion, of victories and losses. They proved the Hittites weren't just warriors. They were lawmakers, thinkers, and record keepers. Their empire had an intelligence system, a bureaucracy, and a culture that thrived for centuries. Yet the discovery left one burning question. How could so much evidence have vanished for so long? Some historians argue it was coincidence, that fire, war, and time destroyed the evidence. But others whisper of something more deliberate. Was it possible that rival empires intentionally wiped their memory? After all, knowledge is power, and the Hittites may have known too much about metallurgy, about warfare, about how to govern an empire. Perhaps their silence wasn't the result of chance, but of calculated elimination. Who benefited from their erasure? And what secrets still lie buried in the ruins, waiting to be uncovered?
Around 1200 BCE, the Hittite Empire suddenly collapsed, vanishing from history in a way so absolute that it baffled generations of scholars. One day, they were a dominant power, rivaling Egypt and Babylon, and the next, their great cities were in ruins, their armies gone, their name erased. What could have caused such a dramatic downfall? Historians point to the Great Late Bronze Age collapse, a mysterious wave of destruction that wiped out nearly every major power in the region. Cities burned, trade routes vanished, and entire civilizations disappeared almost overnight. Theories abound. Some suggest famine, drought, and natural disasters crippled the Hittite heartland. Others point to earthquakes, which could have shattered their fortresses and scattered their people. Still others blame civil unrest and rebellion within the empire itself, as provinces grew restless under the weight of taxation and war. But there is another theory, one more unsettling. The Sea Peoples, a mysterious confederation of raiders, are said to have swept across the Mediterranean, toppling kingdoms in their path. Could they have been the final blow that ended the Hittite reign? Yet even these explanations leave us uneasy. Why was the Hittite disappearance so complete? Egypt survived, Babylon endured, even in weakened form. But the Hittites left almost nothing behind, as though someone had gone to extraordinary lengths to erase them. Was their knowledge of iron and warfare so threatening that rivals conspired to destroy not just their empire, but their very memory? Or did they possess something even more dangerous, something that could not be allowed to survive? The truth remains locked away, hidden beneath the silence of history.
When historians look at the Hittites, they see more than just another fallen empire. They see a mystery that refuses to be solved. Some argue the Sea Peoples annihilated them, erasing their capital and scattering survivors into obscurity. Others claim rival empires deliberately suppressed their memory, fearing what the Hittites represented. After all, these were the people who mastered iron centuries before it became widespread. Their knowledge alone could shift the balance of power across the ancient world. Was it possible that others conspired to make sure that knowledge died with them? One theory suggests that the Hittites were far ahead of their time, not just in weapons, but in governments and diplomacy. Their treaties, their laws, their ability to negotiate peace in an age of constant war, it all suggests a sophistication that unsettled their rivals. Imagine being a neighboring king, reliant on bronze weapons, watching the Hittites forge blades stronger than anything you could command. Would you not fear them? Would you not seek to destroy them, even if it meant burying every trace of their name? And then comes the conspiracy that lingers even today. What if the Hittites were not just a Bronze Age superpower, but custodians of knowledge we have yet to rediscover? Did they hold secrets of iron, architecture, or even astronomy that were too dangerous for the age in which they lived? If so, their destruction was not simply the result of war or famine. It was a deliberate silencing, a message carved into the ruins of history. This knowledge must not survive. Was their empire's collapse truly natural,
or was it engineered from the shadows? Though the Hittites vanished, their influence echoes through history like a ghost that refuses to be silenced. Their treaties laid the groundwork for international diplomacy. Their legal codes influenced later civilizations, emphasizing fairness and justice in ways rarely seen in ancient times. Even their mythology seeped into the cultures that followed, blending with Greek and Near Eastern traditions. In truth, the Hittites never completely disappeared. They simply became invisible, their fingerprints scattered across history in ways few recognize. But why does the world still speak so little of them? Egypt is remembered for its pyramids, Babylon for its hanging gardens, Greece for its philosophers. Yet the Hittites, who rivaled them all, remain a shadow in the background. Perhaps this is the most enduring mystery of all. Their story has never been told with the same reverence, as if the silence around them is part of a continuing erasure. Their ruins stand, their tablets speak, yet their name carries nowhere near the weight it should. Some argue that this is simply the result of history's natural bias toward visible monuments and surviving texts. Others believe the Hittites' obscurity is intentional, that their story has been deliberately minimized, their accomplishments left buried in dusty archives. After all, if we acknowledge their true place in history, it would force us to rewrite the narrative of the ancient world. And maybe that's the point. The Hittites remind us that history is fragile, easily manipulated, and always vulnerable to those who control the story.
The Hittites prove that history is never complete, never secure, and never entirely honest. They were once rulers of a vast empire, masters of iron, warriors, and diplomats. They stood shoulder to shoulder with Egypt, Babylon, and Assyria. And yet, for millennia, their name was erased, their memory dissolved into silence, until the ruins of Hattusa whispered their truth once more. But even now, the question lingers. Why were they forgotten? Was it a simple accident of history, or was it a conspiracy of power designed to silence knowledge that the world was not ready for? What secrets still lie hidden beneath Anatolia's soil? What truths were lost in the flames of their burning cities, or locked away in shattered tablets that time has yet to reveal? The Hittites remind us that history is not a fixed record, but a battlefield in itself, where stories are won, lost, or deliberately erased. And if one of the greatest empires of the ancient world could be so thoroughly forgotten, what else has been buried, waiting to be rediscovered? So, I leave you with this. Do you believe the Hittites were erased by accident, victims of famine and war, or were they deliberately erased by design, their knowledge too dangerous to survive? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we uncover more lost stories, the ones the world doesn't want you to remember.